Yeah, so tell me more about what's been going on this week.
Same thing. I mean, the vice principal called me in to his office, and he complained about my work, and he said something about me not being on time, and yeah, and then my wife was frustrated with me this weekend. Yeah.
Lots of stressful things.
As always.
As always, yeah. And when we met last week for the first time, you told me that there were all sorts of stressful things like this, that when they happen, you tend to feel kind of depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this week, when those stressful things happened, did you find yourself feeling like your mood was getting lower, getting worse?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I felt just exhausted, and other times I felt angry, just generally negative. I just felt, I just didn't feel positive at all.
Yeah, and we're just getting to know each other, Marcus, so this is going to take a little while for us to really understand and for you to kind of explain fully to me in a way that really feels like I'm getting everything. And it's going to take some time for me to really be able to explain and for us to work together in what cognitive behavioral therapy really is in all of its kind of details. But I'm wondering if right now it might be useful to just kind of pause for a minute and give you a little bit of an orientation to what cognitive behavioral therapy for depression could look like for you. Yeah. Would that be okay for just a minute or two?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a lot of different ways to think about cognitive behavioral therapy, and if you go online, which I know you said you have access to the web, and so if you go online and you type in CBT, you'll see all sorts of different stuff. So let me give you kind of the long and the short of it, and we can talk much more later about it. Okay. So the gist of it is that CBT is a name for a lot of different individual therapies. It's kind of like a family name for a lot of different specific treatments. So for depression, for example, there are CBT interventions that are really focusing on the C part, which is cognition, and that's just a big word for, thinking differently. So the big C, what I call big C, little b CBTs for depression, they're going to involve really working hard in here to identify ways that you're thinking that you may not even be aware of, but are really kind of problematic ways that you've learned to think. Not at all your fault, but just kind of habits, patterns, ways you tend to think about. Really, it's often about yourself or about others or about the world. And there are other CBT interventions that are really focused more on the B part. So CBT interventions for depression that are little c, big B focused, they tend to be things that help you directly change the way you're living your life outside of this room, to really change your behavior in a way where you end up feeling a little bit more pleasure, you end up doing things more in your life that are more valuable to you, things that you kind of just aren't doing as much of, but that you really want to do. So maybe connecting more with your wife and really having a greater sense of intimacy with her. Maybe spending more time with your kids, because you've told me that matters to you. But you don't really get a chance to do that much with all the work you're doing, right? So there's little c, big B, and there's big C, little b CBTs for depression. And at this point, we don't know yet which one we're going to do, but we'll talk a lot more about this. And the bottom line is, whatever we end up doing, whatever it is, we're going to do it together, collaboratively. So there's no smoke, there's no mirrors, there's no couch for you to lay on here for dreams to be interpreted. There's none of that stuff. This is going to be a place where we can talk about your problems of the week, and I'm going to help you think through those problems by way of what are the different patterns of thinking or behaving that we can try to change. And then we'll work on changing them in here directly whenever we can. Okay, and then outside of here, in between session, I'll be giving you some things to work on to really directly change the way that you think or the way that you behave and kind of live your life. And again, much more to tell you, but just to get us started, that's kind of the gist of CBT.